Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Money is Emotional podcast. I am your host, Christine Luken. Don't call me baby, because I'm a trust fund lady. Today, we're diving into inheritance, generational wealth, and those babies that people love to tear down, but secretly want to be. I'm talking about nepo babies and trust fund babies. So, pull up a chair because I have some strong opinions about this. Now, first of all, we need to stop it with the baby bashing. If you have kids, grandkids, nieces, and nephews, and you want to build generational wealth, then it is time to stop with the baby bashing. I am talking about nepo babies and trust fund babies. When you judge other people's kids and grandkids for inheriting money and profitable businesses, you're actually putting a curse on your own generational wealth. You can't judge something that someone else has while secretly or not so secretly wanting it for yourself and expecting to get it. You are sending mixed signals into the quantum field, which means you're going to get mixed results at best. The spoiled trust fund and nepo babies you see on TV and social media represent only a very small percentage of the people who are managing inherited businesses and wealth. There is a great deal of pressure and responsibility on second and third generations to preserve, protect, and to grow what they've inherited. And a lot of them are not set up for success. Now, recently, I attended a women's business event called Meant for Magic, which was amazing. Highly recommend. One of the women who was speaking from stage described herself jokingly as a nepo baby. So, in case you're not familiar with the term, it comes from nepotism, meaning that you derive an unfair advantage or preferential treatment and opportunities solely because of your family connections. And it's usually used to describe the children of founders of successful businesses who eventually end up inheriting the company. So, their parents did all the hard work of founding the business and making it profitable, and they just get it handed to them. And so if you've ever watched the classic movie Tommy Boy with Chris Farley, you understand what I mean. And that's the caricature, right? You've got this kind of bumbling idiot that's being handed this multi-million-dollar company and doesn't realize what's at stake. So, this powerhouse woman who was speaking and jokingly referring to herself as a nepo baby, she is a third-generation owner and CEO of an HVAC company that's worth 9 figures. Her grandfather started it and established a steady stream of income for his family, and her father took it over and grew the business substantially during his tenure as CEO. And this woman, she worked for her father for quite a few years, learning the business from the inside and gaining the skills to manage it and the people who worked for the company. And then she has gone on to continue to grow and expand the business and its profitability. Now, does she have an advantage because her family created and sustained a profitable business that she took over? Absolutely. She most certainly did. Is it easy to be the female CEO of a mostly male company that spans several states with hundreds of employees whose livelihood your company is responsible for? Absolutely not. And I know this because I worked full-time in my family's business, KRC Machine Tool Services, for 13 years as the vice president of HR and accounting, and then as a part-time contractor for 4 years while I was ramping up my financial coaching business. And there is a heavy burden of responsibility when you are part of a family business, knowing that employees and their families depend on their livelihood and their paychecks from your company. Every single decision you make does not just affect you. It affects dozens and sometimes hundreds of people and families. So the success or failure doesn't just affect you. And when you work in a family business, there's no real separation of your personal and professional lives. You talk about business with your family all the time, even at Thanksgiving dinner. Ask me how I know. It's all pervasive. And when you are a second or third generation owner of a company, there's a ton of pressure not to F up what your parent or grandparent created. You're always in the founder's shadow. Employees, customers, and suppliers have preconceived notions about how you should be in comparison with your parent or your grandparent. Your dad always did it this way, or your grandfather would never say that, right? You get a lot of judgment from others. You also have to work twice as hard to prove yourself capable because people assume that the only reason that you got the job is that your mom or your dad hired you. Now, one thing I love about my dad is that when I graduated from college, he did not hire me straight out of college and create a position for me. He basically said, once something opens up in the accounting department, then you can apply for it. And I had to go through all of the regular channels, filling out an application, doing a background check. I had to do all of that. And my dad told me when I was first hired, he said, because you're my daughter, you're going to be held to a higher standard than other employees. So your behavior has to be 110% above board. You're going to have to work twice as hard as anyone else to prove that you deserve this job. It's not fair, but it's true. Now, the fact is, only about 30% of family-owned businesses successfully transition to the second generation. This means that 70% of family businesses either fail, are sold, or they're closed. The decision is made to close the business. The survival rate drops even more for later generations. About 12% reach the third generation, and it's like 2 or 3% for the fourth generation. Now, there are a number of reasons that this is so. Like, some founders don't have a clear succession plan in place, and when they die, it's just chaos. Like, nobody knows how things are run. There's no documentation. And that business basically was all in the founder's head, right? Like, everything lived and died with the person that started the company. Now, other times, the heirs, their kids or grandkids, argue and fight over how to run the business, and they either run it into the ground or they end up selling it. One of the biggest reasons is a lack of training and preparation for the second and third generations to properly run the business. And sometimes the kids or grandkids don't have an interest in being in the family business, and that is totally okay too. So some of you who are listening, you're business owners and entrepreneurs, and maybe your dream is to pass down your profitable business to your kids. And that's amazing. Be sure that you are preparing your kids with the skills that they'll need to successfully run it. Things like accounting, sales, leadership, and communication. And be talking to your kids about the business. Find out if they do have an interest in filling your shoes someday, or maybe they don't, and maybe you do need to plan on a different succession plan where you're selling the business to somebody else who does want to take it over, and then your kids get the benefit of the value in the business in the form of the sale versus running the business themselves. And when you see someone who is a second or third generation business owner, celebrate them and their unfair advantages, because you want to give those same unfair advantages to your kids, right? That's how you hope that people would treat your kids and your grandkids. Now, here's the interesting thing. Most people do not inherit money or businesses in childhood. The average age at which people receive a substantial inheritance is between 50 and 60. So there really aren't a lot of trust fund or nepo babies, technically. Now, people are living longer and they're passing wealth to their children later in life, not when they're kids or young adults, but when they're middle-aged. So studies show that 80% of the money from parents is passed down to those aged 50 and older. So those who are truly trust fund and nepo babies are actually pretty rare. And yes, I really am a trust fund lady. I am one of those women who has inherited midlife. But the twist in my story is that I have a living inheritance. My 80-year-old father is still alive and well. 5 years ago, he decided to begin transferring some of his assets to my brother and me, including ownership in the family business. And he did this for two reasons. One, so that he could watch us enjoy the money and to guide us in using it well. And two, for proactive tax planning. So I'm not going to get into the tax planning in this episode because I got a D in tax accounting, and I highly recommend that you take your tax planning advice from a seasoned CPA. But I will say that those of you who are growing net worths that are in excess of $10 million, you do need to start talking to a tax professional about these types of strategies. Now, although I don't work in the family business, I am back to being an owner because my dad transferred some of his shares to me into a trust. So yes, I do have a trust fund, and therefore I am a trust fund lady. And I have a confession to make. The majority of my income right now doesn't come from my financial coaching business. It comes from my ownership in the family business and from my investments. I don't have to work if I don't want to. And there's a part of me that's a little scared to say that out loud because I know what I will hear from some of you. Must be nice. So, why would I say it out loud? Because I am not the only one in this position. And there's about to be a bunch of trust fund ladies coming online. Why? Because the largest wealth transfer is happening right now. An estimated 124 trillion with a T in global wealth is expected to change hands by 2045, with women set to inherit or control 70% of this wealth due to longer life expectancies. Yes, collectively, women are about to inherit trillions of dollars in the next 20 years. Now, at best, they're prepared to preserve it, but most are not prepared to grow it and create a legacy with it. There are two parts to being prepared for an inheritance, handling it logistically and processing it emotionally. I say this on almost every single podcast episode. Money is emotional. Inheriting money is very emotional. Most women aren't going to receive a living inheritance like me. They won't receive it until their parents pass away. Usually, receiving a large sum of money is a positive experience, but with inheritance, many times it's tainted with grief and guilt, and sometimes a whole other host of emotions, depending on what your relationship with your parents was like. There's emotional processing that needs time and space. And there are also major financial decisions on the table with an inheritance. When emotions are high, wise decision making can plummet. And that's why this is a very important time to prepare for. So if you are expecting an eventual inheritance, it is important to take the time now, well before it happens, to educate yourself on things like money management, investing, and tax planning. Because the worst time to learn about these things is when you have to and you are in the throes of grief. Now, for those of you, maybe you're not getting an inheritance, but you want to leave an inheritance for your kids and your grandkids. And you want your kids, nieces and nephews, grandchildren, to be trust fund ladies and gentlemen, not babies. It is your job to start preparing them well before it happens. They need your guidance. They need financial knowledge and emotional intelligence. They also need opportunities to play the game of money while the amounts and the stakes are small. If you're looking for resources to teach kids about money, you are in luck, because that's exactly what the very next episode of Money is Emotional is all about. So stay tuned. Now, if you feel ill-equipped to guide the children in your life relative to money because you're not managing your own well, it's time to change that. Grab a copy of my book, Money is Emotional: Prevent Your Heart from Hijacking Your Wallet. No matter where you are with your income or your assets, you'll find a path forward in the pages of that book. And if you're interested in getting my personalized financial advice, book a Money Power Hour with me. You'll be amazed by how much we can accomplish in 60 minutes. See the link in the show notes to schedule your one-on-one session with me today. And ladies, whether you plan on being a trust fund lady or someone who leaves a trust fund, I am extending the invitation to please join me in my free Facebook group, Spiritual Women Building Wealth. It's a community for women who want to build wealth in a way that honors their spirituality and blesses not just their families, but also the world. Well, my friend, this is where I leave you for today. If you enjoyed this conversation, please leave us a review. It helps other people to find the Money is Emotional podcast. And if you're not a subscriber yet, what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Until next time, this is Christine Luken, the Merchant Priestess, reminding you that you're good enough, you're powerful enough, and gosh darn it, people love you, including me. Bye for now.